Hey, Friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
And welcome back to Going in Raw, the only pro wrestling podcast you need to be listening to on today's episode. Of course, it's Wednesday, which means it's time for us to take a look at your pro wrestling hot takes, and we will react to them. Larson, where would you like to begin today?
Let's start here with C Machine 25. Hot take.
Hot take.
Randall Keith Orton versus Cody Rhodes should main event night 2.
Part of this, to me, depends on, number one, I do think that it's got the potential from this point on to be a more interesting and a bigger feeling story. Roman is big box office, we know that. Punk is like the most popular guy in the company right now. So you need something that's meatier, that feels like the stakes are high. I mean, that's what the main event should be, the one with the highest stakes. And I'm sort of waffling on like which one would. And I think the one thing that could tip Cody and Randy the scales to being that is exactly what you just did there with your hand. Who was on the phone? If it's Ric Flair, no way.
No.
If it's Triple H or The Rock, then yeah, that's got to be night 2 if they get heavily involved with the story, because they are, you know, the overlords of WWE right now. Yeah. So that means the stakes would be higher than, you know, Roman calling Punk old, Punk talking shit about Roman's family, what have you, and just the attraction value of those two names.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this. I think there's two possibilities here that could motivate either match. Storyline possibilities, not just marquee value, that could motivate either match being the main event of night 2. With Randy versus Cody, you nailed it right there with who was Randy talking to on the phone. Even if it's Triple H, I don't know if it necessarily guarantees night 2. I'm sure in Triple H's mind, in a lot of respects, it would. But
in his mind, yeah.
You know, Triple H is still around fairly often. He's going to introduce both nights of WrestleMania, probably. He'll be on the show. If it's The Rock, then yeah, you'd think that'd be night 2. Unless maybe they're doing something where they don't want to show their hand yet. They want it to be a surprise. Like the surprise we didn't get last year with The Rock getting involved, you know? Where we'll keep expectations low for people to assume, oh, it's just going to be Randy versus Cody. And then you smell what The Rock is cooking. His theme hits. Holy shit. Now, without revealing who Randy is on the phone with, and they push it to night 2, people are going to start talking. Oh, is The Rock going to be there? Is Triple H going to be there? If you put it main event of night 1, I think it quells some of that conversation, perhaps. At least, you know, to a certain extent. On the other hand, Punk versus Roman, if you got some sort of Uso turn happening, betraying Roman to help Punk win, whether directly or indirectly, purposely or not, they might think, oh, that's such a potentially huge story beat that's going to be kind of like the defining image of this WrestleMania that we want people to go home with, because that's really going to propel the stories in 2026, at least through the summer. So I'm guessing they're weighing what they want to do, or they have, and decided seemingly that Punk Roman is going to main event night 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, we should also point out that it's already been announced what is going to, but it is kind of an intriguing question. We've seen them pivot before. We've seen them reverse course before. I don't foresee them doing that in this situation, but I mean, look, I could totally see Nick Khan calling up Dwayne, Triple H calling up Dwayne, making amends, saying, hey, you know what, dude? We need you, Dwayne. We need you because we got to sell some tickets and we want to get some momentum back going for this thing. And then they can claim that was always the plan. But I do think that in terms of the story, you know, Randy is a more interesting story. I think out of the two, you know, there's been really good promos with Punk and Roman, but in terms of, as we saw back at 40, where my defining image of 40 was The Rock outside, bloody Cody, the rain coming down, the final boss, Mama Rhodes, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
That's my defining image from that build. And so far, the defining image between these two matches is what happened on SmackDown on Friday. It's Randy Orton turning heel, bloody Cody again, and him sitting in that chair with that title. And usually the defining image is really what you want. Whatever match contains that defining image should be the night 2 main event. So yeah, I mean, I get why they would want to go Punk Roman, like from the outset. Let's say back in January, they're like, we're pretty sure we're going to go Randy and Cody, and we're going to do Punk Roman. Okay, what's the biggest name value? Clearly it's Punk Roman, because Randy is always just sort of Randy, like he's around quite often. He hasn't really changed a whole lot. He hasn't been featured as like the marquee guy like Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns at this point is by far Mr. WrestleMania because of how many times he's main evented, whether or not they've been good or not. And Randy's not that. But this iteration of Randy is pretty intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I understand why they would have gone Punk Roman. But this definitely has the potential to usurp that. I mean, similar to how last year did with that night 1 main event versus what we got night 2.
Yeah. But similarly, they went with marquee value for night 2 as opposed to story.
You're right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Next hot take here from, I think this is Loco Booty.
Crazy Booty.
Says the Masked Man gimmick is just one of many bad Seth Rollins gimmicks, lol. Seth's had boring gimmicks when he was babyface. Like when he won the title from Brock at Mania 35. He was pretty dull. Wasn't necessarily bad, just kind of boring.
Remember that guy in the crowd had the sign, Seth Rollins isn't cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's around the time he was doing all this stuff where people were being critical toward WWE, and he would just like lecture them to, what do you know?
Yeah.
You're not there.
Are you there? Are you there?
He was being like #1 WWE cheerleader at the time. Like the Monday Night Messiah stuff, whatever. That was kind of compromised because of COVID booking and basically around,
Yeah.
This isn't boring. This is bad, though. This is objectively bad.
You know what's funny about this, though? Is if you simply ditch his Seth Rollins Academy crew and that cheesy, I mean, that's what jumped the shark, was that the Masked Man lower third on Raw.
Yeah.
Those are two relatively small. You just get rid of those and you've just got, vigilante Seth Rollins, and it's fine. It's fine. It doesn't, this so unnecessarily. It's like a cell phone. Mm-hmm. It's a forced error or unforced error, where you've got these goofy ass dudes dancing around and it's just cheesy as hell. It doesn't even functionally really serve a purpose.
No.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. I agree with you. I don't think he's had any bad gimmicks.
Except this one.
This one is bad. This one is bad. So I don't think he's had many bad gimmicks. I don't think he's had any bad. At worst, he's been boring, like you said, and it's exactly one, because it was the Seth Rollins isn't cool gimmick.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't think he's had any bad gimmicks.
No. This one's terrible though. Gosh, remember the 3-card Monty?
Bro, I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to.
Gosh, that was so
like,
bad.
why didn't they learn from that?
No, the even they're like, oh, this worked. We're going to double down on it. We're going to lean into this whole Masked Man thing. And let's put an AI Masked Man in Seth's lower third.
Yeah, somebody's a huge fan. Let's put 20 Masked Men out there, see what happens.
How about they all spin around Seth so that people are confused which one's Seth and which one isn't?
They all spin around Seth.
Like a mosh pit? What's that?
Yeah, you just won the Pritchard there. That was a good one. I can't beat that.
Next hot take here from Dom W. says Roman calling Punk old was lame as fuck.
Oh, wow.
Should have talked about his dead dog to warrant that reaction. So apparently, there was news today from Body Slam that was the direction at first.
Yeah.
That Roman was going to mention Larry.
Yeah.
And they changed course.
Yeah, I was thinking of when I saw that, I was like, I'm really kind of curious what Larson thinks about this. So go ahead. If instead Roman Reigns had said something, Roman had mentioned in the backstage, I don't care if people call me part-time. I'm a full-time father. And I was like, fuck, as both you and I are dads, it's like, hey, I feel that, man.
Yeah.
That's why I love this job, because it affords us the freedom to be dads. There's nothing better than that. At the end of the day, when I'm sitting on my deathbed, I'm going to be able to look back and be like, I don't know if I made a difference in this world, but I made a difference for my kids. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I think every father can relate to that. Punk does not have kids. Nope. But he very much treated his dog, Larry, who passed recently, as his child. At least publicly he did. And it's a heavy thing to lose a dog.
It is. To lose a pet, yeah. Yeah.
Would that as an emotional insult, an emotional weapon, would that resonate the way Punk says, I'm going to bury you next to your dad? Do you think there's a way that can resonate in the same way?
If it'd have to be framed as Roman framed it backstage, but doing so in front of Punk, essentially saying, you can't understand where I'm coming from. You don't have a family of your own. The most important thing for me is to be with my family. I do this to support my family. And I do this on a part-time level better than anybody does on a full-time level. But you wouldn't relate because you don't have a family, and then he can bring up Larry, Yeah, I think there's a way to do it because everybody knows how much Larry meant to Punk and AJ.
Yeah.
But I guess the question is, everybody has to be on board with that approach. And if for whatever reason someone's not on board with that, then you don't do it.
Well, okay, I don't know. That's a good point. And you have to wonder if Punk was reluctant to go there.
Mm-hmm. It's possible.
It is possible. Given that he was the guy walking around with Paul Bear's ashes, that was a long time ago.
That was pretty, soon after Paul Bear passed away.
It was very soon after, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I really don't. I guess because you're right, like he'd have to be on board with it. Everybody should always be on board with this shit. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. But I guess my bigger question is, let's say Phil is on board with it.
Mm-hmm.
Would the audience connect in the same way? Like, yes, we know that Larry was, ostensibly his child, but hey, as I got an entire shrine to my dog over there. You and I are both very much dog people now. But would the general audience, because a dog and a child, they're not the same thing.
Maybe here, let me interject real quick. So I think maybe.
See, hold 1 second.
Sure.
Keep that thought.
Yeah.
Because I always think of like Ron Burgundy and Jack Black kicking the dog off off the overpass.
The bridge. Yeah. Maybe it's less who's on board, who's not, who's comfortable with that, who's not, and more so, how do we want to position these two performers heading into WrestleMania? And the thought is, obviously, what Roman said backstage, the Usos about his family, that's a very babyface thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I want to maximize time with my family. And so they thought maybe Roman bringing up Larry was too far for him to go into kind of more heel territory versus trying to keep him more so in the babyface side of things.
Mm-hmm,
maybe that played into it. Whereas him leaning into Punk and saying, you're old, you can't keep up with me. Does it maybe have the emotional power of bringing up Larry? No. But if they establish now that Punk has, he's got a thing about getting up there in years and getting injured and stuff, that's a sore spot for him. Maybe that's something they can develop. I don't know. I thought how Roman delivered the year-old line was great. And I bought into it because his delivery was so good. But, obviously Punk bringing up Roman's father was meant to really stick it to him. Does Roman calling Punk old have the same effect? Not necessarily. Could bringing up Larry have? Maybe. But I don't know exactly the motivation for bringing it up versus not. So,
yeah, no, I feel you. I'm just trying to think, like, getting into just the heart of the hot take here. What's a better line of attack? You're old, which speaks to somebody deep. It's like, God damn, I am. It struck a nerve. You see Punk. He talks about the bags under his eyes and how. Doing this back in the mix to the extent that he is, it takes a toll and it reminds you of your age, and you probably don't have too much time left doing this. And you just finally at the age of 47 got to where you want to be. You look at him closing the show. I know Roman's sitting on main event. Punk's he's the most fucking over guy they've got. So he's there. He's what he wanted to be. He's being treated by the company the way he wanted to be treated back in 2011 to 2014. And so he has it now, but it ain't going to last too much longer because he's old. And there is an existential crisis there. Saying you wouldn't get it, all you had was that dumb dog, and now it's dead, so you have nothing. Yeah, that hurts. That's emotional.
Yeah.
But I just don't know if that's like cutting as deep as you're about to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
guess the idea that Roman's about to be done at the hands of Punk, Roman could kind of turn that around on him, using the old thing. You're injury prone. Bring up, hey, didn't you walk out of here because part-timers legends and part-timers and older wrestlers were taking opportunities from younger wrestlers? Bring up, the potential hypocrisy in that regard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's probably a bunch of, that might be, granted, that's comments Punk made 15 years ago, basically, and that might not be stuff fans necessarily care about.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I guess, like everything, it all sort of depends where they go from here. Mm-hmm. I think my thing is, it's a more meaty central premise to continue this feud, to say you're old, as opposed to, is Punk next week going to be still upset about Roman saying things about his dog?
I know. Yeah. The idea of
how far can you take that?
With Roman mentioning Punk's age, using that as a means to stick it to him, it provides more story fodder throughout the breadth of this feud, even during the match,
Yes.
Where Punk's all winded, looks beat to shit, and Roman looks fresh. There's ways they can explore that theme for the duration of this feud, as opposed to getting one good line in potentially about
his dog.
Yeah.
Yeah. How far can you really take it?
It's just next week. It's the immediate reaction, and that's it.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, we've got a couple sponsors for the show this week, so let's go ahead and talk about them.
Let's do it. This episode of Going in Raw is sponsored by Factor. The weather's starting to get warm. It's actually quite warm out, which means tank top season is nearly here. But if I want to get my bicep and tricep meat massive enough to show it off in a tank top, I need to make time in my schedule to make sure I'm eating well.
That's right, man. Well, Factor is how I stopped letting a busy schedule get in the way of eating quality meals. Factor's fully prepared meals are designed by dietitians, crafted by chefs, and use quality, functional ingredients. I'm talking lean proteins, veggies, whole food ingredients, and healthy fats.
Factor's meals are always fresh, never frozen, are ready to eat in just 2 minutes. And with over 100 rotating meals each week, you can keep things fresh while actually sticking to your goals, whether you're looking to eat high protein or calorie smart or GLP-1 support. Plus, Factor's got their new Muscle Pro collection, perfect for me, to achieve maximum bicep and tricep gains this summer so I can sport tank tops all the time.
So head to factormeals.com/raw50off and use code RAW50off to get 50% off and free breakfast for a year. Offer only valid for new Factor customers with code and qualifying auto-renewing subscription purchase. Make healthier eating easy with Factor.
And this episode of Going In Raw is sponsored by Pocket Hose, the world's #1 expandable hose. I was doing yard work this weekend. I don't like doing yard work anyways. But once again, I got jobbed out by my enormous old-fashioned hose. The thing just keeps getting creases and kinks. I'm trying to use it, and it's got like a 15-degree angle kink in it, so no water comes out, and I have to walk over there and undo it, and then another kink starts, and it's just, it drives me mad, Steve.
It's absolutely annoying, but I gotta ask, man, what are you doing using that old-fashioned hose? Getting one over on you when you should be using a pocket hose copperhead. The copperhead's pocket pivot swivels 360 degrees for full water flow and total freedom to water anywhere. Let me just take a guess here, Larson. Your old school hose, it's super bulky and unwieldy, right?
Yeah, it is. I feel like I'm wrestling a snake. A giant anaconda, perhaps, anytime I try to use that thing.
Oh, dude, no doubt. But when you're done using the pocket hose copperhead, the hose shrinks back down to pocket size so you can move it effortlessly and store it easily. It's lightweight, it's durable, and has made watering my backyard an absolute breeze.
For a limited time, Going In Raw listeners can get a free pocket pivot and their 10-pattern sprayer with the purchase of any size copperhead hose. Just text RAW to 64,000. That's RAW to 64,000 for your 2 free gifts with purchase. RAW to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. See terms for details.
Larson, I was so excited. I know we're doing hot takes, but I was so excited because the other day I got my merch in from friendoshop.com.
Have you washed it since you wore it to shoot hoops in the other day?
Bro, I'm telling you.
That stuff's all sweaty. It's got to smell by this point.
I have not worn any of this stuff yet, even to shoot hoops. You know me.
You said yesterday you wore the one shirt to go shoot hoops in and you got all sweaty.
I clarified that I did not, in fact, wear the shirt to shoot hoops.
I remember you saying that.
You're not paying attention once again. Look at this jersey. We're about to ball up. I'm going to wear this jersey out there.
I wish I had the melty jersey, because then if I beat you, you'd be utterly humiliated.
No, see, here's the thing. If you wear the melty jersey, you're getting thrown in the pond. That's what's happening.
Certainly not by you, and there's no pond in the vicinity where we play.
With the duck shit in the pond, you're going to be swimming around in that duck shit. Look at this shirt right here. I'm going to wear this to the bar this Saturday. I'm going to be picking up some 7s, 8s, 9s out of 10s. I'm going to have Lacey with me, so she'll have to vet them as well. This is not a merch shirt right here. What is this one? This is a merch shirt. Look at this guy right here. This is what I was wearing the other day.
Yeah, that's when it's all stinky and sweaty from when you were shooting around.
I was not shooting around, but it's a really great looking shirt. I got this one too. This isn't part of the current drop, but this is a good looking shirt right here. Look at this. Smells clean. Maybe I'll wear this to, I don't know what I'm gonna wear.
No, you said you could wear the new one. So
yeah, we'll see. I might throw you for a loop and wear that one. Certainly not the melty stuff. Speaking of melty stuff, here it is. I'll show it to you guys right there. I mean, yeah, you know, if you're interested in going swimming in a pond, you're going to get thrown in a pond if you're wearing this melty stuff. Trust me on that. Or you can go to the bar and pick up some strange wearing this merch right here. Oh my God, look at it. It looks so good. It looks so good, this merch. You want to buy it right now. Friendoshop.com. Use code Friendo2026. It looks so good. That's the new phrase. It looks so good, but then this stuff right here, you get thrown in a pond.
You won't get thrown in a pond, for heaven's
sakes. If you wear this. You go,
what's the promo code again? Friendo2026. Be sure to use a promo code. Do not pay full price.
Don't pay full price. Do not pay full price. We're not going to give you a refund. That's not going to happen. No, we should not, because that's on them. They got to learn something about personal responsibility. Also, we're in April. No, sorry, we're not in April, but we are on the road to WrestleMania, because in April is WrestleMania, as is the Predictions Challenge. Click join. We're trying to make this, I don't know if we'll be able to do it, the #1 Predictions Challenge we've ever done, the biggest Predictions Challenge we've ever done, the 2-night WrestleMania Predictions Challenge. We're going to talk today on the court about, I'll be like dribbling the ball, be like, hey, what should we offer him up? And you'll be like, I don't know, I'll just go around you.
No, more likely you'll be talking and then you'll be distracted and they'll steal the ball from you.
That is probably more likely to happen. And then you'll throw me in the pond if I'm wearing the melty merch.
No, I'll throw you in the pond just because.
Just regardless. Well, you just said there's no pond, Larson.
There is no pond, but if there were a pond, I would be tempted to throw you in it.
You're going to chuck me in the pond, Larson? Anyways, yeah, bonus episodes. We're going to record a new one on Wednesday. And also the question threads for the shows. You get access to all that stuff by joining the Friendo Club. Click join right here, youtube.com/Stephen Larson, or go to patreon.com/Stephen Larson and do the Friendo Club setup. That's what it's called there. We also have a variety of other reward tiers. So there you go. Back to the hot takes. All right, let's continue these hot takes here. Next up, we've got The Situation says, CM Punk is looking more and more like a heel every week.
And maybe that plays into the Larry thing. They don't want Roman appearing to be more heelish. I don't know. And I honestly, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I think Punk just has a bit of an edge to him. They're really trying to sell the magnitude of this main event. And honestly, happy to be there, Phil. Ain't going to cut it in that regard.
Yeah.
This feud needs to have some teeth. You know, other than Roman just saying, I hate you, I've always hated you. Well, you got to get more than that.
Yeah.
And so they got to take shots at each other. That's
Being
what it comes down
yeah.
to. And again, go back to the old thing, thinking about it more. Roman calling Punk old, has a lot more legs than just one pointed insult. So I'm actually kind of happy they went that way instead of doing the Larry stuff.
Being a heel is being the guy that you're trying to get the crowd to want to see you get beat up. And I don't see that in Punk right now. I think they are doing a thing where you got two characters who they are just very different people with a deep history with the company, with their place in the company, with each other to a degree, with the way they've gotten to where they've gotten. And I think that's that's always a good spot to be in, because you can explore the vast differences between these characters without resorting to things like, cheap heel heat, wait until the guy looks the other way and give him the low blow. And I feel like they both will probably, to a degree, get kind of cheaty during the match, just trying to win. But I don't think it has to be overtly, let me, as you mentioned last week, what can he do to be a heel? Align with the vision. He doesn't need to do that. He doesn't need to be overtly bad guy. He could just be Punk, and I think that's a good place to be in. And if you perceive him as being a heel every week, maybe you just understand the character of Roman Reigns more than you do CM Punk. And I think that's a good place to be in. It allows everybody, as we saw on Raw this week, they were cheering who they wanted to cheer. There was not a clear-cut favorite between it. It seemed like Roman might have had a little bit of the edge in terms of the crowd appreciation. But I even think that they want it that way. They were chanting CM Punk, and Roman said, this is what you cheer for. Mm-hmm. Even though there was plenty of people cheering for Roman Reigns, and Punk had to kind of acknowledge that. So I think it's a good place for them to be in. And now let's maximize what's been said in these promos to take it to the next level. Maybe they should do a thing where Roman Reigns gets on the phone in a grainy video and he talks to somebody.
But who?
And then we're all wondering, who's this guy talking to?
Yeah.
Now? That's a joke. I don't want them to do that. It'd be kind of stupid.
Steve wants less real player video on his WB programming, not more.
Yeah, I want him to be on the phone in 8K. That's what I want.
No, you're right, 1,000%. They don't need to do anything as dramatic building up to Mania as a heel turn to sell this match. They just need to make the story personal between them.
Yeah.
So personal enough so people are invested in who wins and who loses and how that plays out. That's their job at this point, and it doesn't necessitate anybody turning heel because they're well-defined characters who the crowd both really like.
Yeah.
Next hot take here from Blue Cruise says the Usos are clearly turning on Roman at Mania, adding another wrinkle to Roman's story/ego. Betrayal is Roman's thing.
Oh,
that's what kind of defines about how he carries himself in basically every aspect as a character. given that the Usos are not pressing Roman about the apology stuff,
They don't care.
they don't care, or they're going to turn on him. I see some parallels between what they did last year with Seth and Heyman with this, in that there's an obvious kind of elephant in the room that they are just not addressing. And perhaps they're doing so when the turn happens, you're like, holy shit, oh, but this was never addressed. And afterwards, the Usos say, Roman, you never apologized to us, so no, we don't have your back anymore. Okay, it makes sense then at that point. If Punk put that thought in their head, and then, Roman, it hasn't been brought up since Punk mentioned it.
I need more. There has to be more, dude, even Easter eggs, anything for me to buy into that. For them, we have these private conversations that are shown. We have the camera there. And when Roman mentions, he needs to apologize to you guys, and I'm going to make sure he does that. I mean, that's a pretty strong. That's pretty nice. That to me shows they're good. They're good. He's gonna do. He says this guy wronged you guys. I'm gonna make it right for you.
But the Roman saying that without making the realization that he wronged the Usos in the past, or is not willing to apologize for it, is an interesting dynamic as well. And it could be a situation where the Usos are just like, all right, we're gonna get back good with Roman, so he lets his guard down.
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel what you're saying, and I know but there's got, fuck, how long ago was that War Games? Back in what, November? Was the
Bloodline reunion was a couple years ago.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. And they didn't. What, they're gonna bug him about it now? All signs point to they're fine, they're cool, they don't need this, or it was done in private off camera, which I hate. And yes, I love that Punk acknowledged that, and maybe they are actually going to do something with it. But I hate when people are so. The Usos are doing such a good, convincing job right now of showing me that they're cool with Roman Reigns.
That's what they want you to think, Steve.
I know, but I hate that, though. Like, it's a narrative. It's fiction. There should be some amount of evidence for the audience that these guys have an issue with Roman Reigns having not apologized to them. And we've never seen that. All signs point to they're totally cool with it. Now, all of a sudden, you saw how heated they were with CM Punk. Is that part of the subterfuge as well?
Because how many times did Seth nearly get violent with Heyman in the build-up to WrestleMania last year?
Punk talks shit about their family. They come out there hot. They punch him. That's part of the subterfuge?
Yeah.
I don't like that.
We've seen that in wrestling before where they're like, all right, but you got to punch me. It's not the first time that's happened.
Yeah, but dude, this is bloodline shit. That's got to be better. And, that's...
Well, I mean, like the reunion should have been better than what it was. They're
going to be cool with CM Punk talking shit about their family. They've never been cool with anybody talking shit about their family. That's like, y'all, look, we can have beef with Roman, but we're not going to have beef with Roman to side with somebody outside the family. That ain't the bloodline. Yeah, look, if they do it, I won't be shocked because like you said, there are some parallels there with the Heyman stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we saw the Heyman stuff coming a mile away. Maybe this guy's seeing the Usos thing coming.
Yeah,
coming
I could see what this friend was talking about. Another aspect too, and maybe the timeline is I'm not remembering it properly. Jay's been carrying around a lot more anger of late.
Mm-hmm, sure, yeah.
And maybe we're supposed to think this anger is directed towards Punk or the backstage bit, LA Knight. But ever since Punk brought up the fact that Roman never apologized to him, Jay is just bottling up that anger because he's angry about Roman not apologizing to him.
Dude, there was a whole story where Roman was hyping up Jay, saying, dude, you need to get after your own. You need to get this thing. You're ready. You're good. What fucking more do you need? Like, this dude, clearly, from what we've been presented, they're past it. Roman says, you're the man now. You're the guy here. You get at that title. You can do it. Like, dude. Like, how is he going to be angry at that guy?
I assume that's they just changed course creatively there.
All right, now you're talking, because if there's a wild shift in creative, then okay, that explains it.
I mean, it could be, this is silly because Roman won the Rumble, Jay didn't. Jay's fault he didn't get number one contender shit, but it could be a thing where Jay's like, Roman, you were saying I was ready to be the dude, I was ready to be the guy here on Raw, and then you come and you choose Punk, so now I can't be.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's right. It's wrestling. You can write it. For me, I don't see it right now. I would not be able to buy into it after we've had 2 years of Roman hyping up Jay, them being cool. It's all part of the plan. Enjoy the show, man. Yeah. I gotcha.
Just sit back and chew some ice and enjoy the show. Next up here from Parsath says the delivery of Roman's promo on Raw was great. But this is kind of what we just talked about, but never addressed any real character flaws or how he never apologized. It's never been brought up since Punk brought it up.
Yeah, well, like I said, I feel like Roman's actions have basically said, hey, you know what? I might have messed up with you guys, but
sometimes you got to hear the words, though. You got to hear the words.
Yeah, I guess.
Get Up on the Mic has a hot take, says breaking the Hangman stipulation sets a bad precedent, but not having him challenge for the world title might be even worse for AEW's long-term future. If they choose to eventually break the stipulation, it must be done masterfully. Of course, they can't do this casually where he says, I'm not challenging for the world title, and then it's just kind of casually undone. It has to be a pretty monumental thing for them to break the stipulation. Now imagine if it's the example scenario where, say he couldn't challenge for the world title. You got Mox still with the title in the briefcase. And everybody's like, we can see this plain as day. Hangman's the guy. I'm talking about in the world in AEW. Like how it pretty much played out. Everybody's like, yeah, I think you're going to be the dude, Hangman, to beat Mox. Something like that, where there's a huge monumental thing that needs to happen. And Hangman is like the only person to do it. Mm-hmm. Then they have to write it a certain way that matches the gravitas of the situation, where he has to earn that opportunity back. It can't just be granted. Storyline wise, it has to be huge, and he has to earn it.
Yeah.
And however they write that, but I don't think it's necessarily a bad choice to have him not challenge for the title in the near term. It allows him to do other things. There's 10 million other titles in AEW he can compete for.
Yeah.
And having him in those divisions elevates those divisions.
Yeah. There's plenty for him to do in the interim. Plenty for him to do. But I do like the idea that, he'd get, for example, the Continental title. Mm-hmm. Always looking at that AEW World title. He's like, because he always want what you get.
That's the one that defines himself.
It's like, this Continental title is booty. It doesn't define me. He goes after the international title. Maybe this will do the thing. It's international. Yeah, that's synonymous with world, I think.
It's not the same.
It's not the same. It doesn't cover the oceans. Ocean's 70% of the world.
Yes, this is only a title for only 30% of Earth, yeah.
Right. And then, he gets his hand on a trios title. It's a Mystico title. Still not good enough for me.
Oh, he's already had that, though. So
yeah, he's already had that. He just had it, literally. And so it all comes back to the AEW World title, and he's thinking. And then he goes back and reviews the tape from the press conference. He's like, wait a second. Did he just say this is a gentleman's agreement? I'm going to get my lawyers to look into this. Mm-hmm. Enter Smart Mark Sterling.
Oh, gosh.
That'd be great. That's how they should do it. No, what you're saying is great. How about this? I got another scenario.
Sure.
And this came to me because you were sitting there thinking this has to be like akin to Mox and having the briefcase, right? So, of course, I go to my fantasy book. 2 words. Shane McMahon. They don't do that.
What response do you expect?
Invasion Part 2. But they call it something different. What's another word for invasion, Larson? What's synonymous with invasion?
Attack?
Occupation. Occupation. So Shane shows up, but he's not alone. All the ex-WWE guys that Tony Khan has signed over the years, they align with Shane. and oh my God, the worst thing could possibly happen. Adam Copeland gets the AEW World title.
Oh, Lord.
We need Hangman. Yeah.
Only Hangman could save the day.
Or fuck, Mox even, you know.
Just revisit that. Sure, why not?
Yeah. He starts going by the name Dean Moxley. Yeah, it's all bad. It's all bad. You're right, obviously. But I feel like years have to go by, and they do need to execute some monumental story where it's got, Hangman. Oh, he's the only guy. You're absolutely right. I think that'd be terrific. So it has to be a big deal. My guess is, they're just gonna simply let him do it.
Probably.
They're gonna do one of those things where we're like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I thought he couldn't. Tony Khan said it was okay. Okay, yeah, all right, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't disagree, but I feel like Hangman's the type of performer who really pays attention to the details.
Yeah, you're probably right.
He might be like, no, this makes no fucking sense. Why should I?
I'm doomering right now. Yeah, because AEW, they'll do weird shit like that sometimes.
They will.
So I'm putting it out there so that they don't.
There you go. Next hot take here from Beef Boy.
Beef Boy
says Triple A keeps putting on banger after banger and is more impressive than Raw or SmackDown.
That's cool. I didn't watch Rey de Reyes. Man, every time I see it, it just sort of, it's like, it's just WWE and AAA.
Yeah.
Like Flammer has an open challenge. Bailey answers it. And that's cool. I love Bailey. She's like one of my favorites,
She's great. Yeah.
You look at the match graphics, or the posters they have, and it's like, you look at it, it's like 2/3 are WWE people.
Yeah.
And it's just a different thing now. It's not AAA, it's WWE AAA. And so, but AAA.
Yeah.
And so I'm appreciative that they've got good matches. Maybe I should check it out. But it to me, it's like WWE's best developmental system. That's sort of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, well, I'd much rather watch AAA than NXT.
Yeah.
But, I'd much rather watch, original AAA than WWE AAA.
Yeah. Yep. Next hot take here from Tyler Warden says the recent signings like Danhausen and Joe Hendry are showing me that the homegrown talents really need some outside reps to shine in the Federation. Not being brought up through the system has given them a uniqueness that the PC just can't replicate.
I appreciate that WWE, not only are they developing their own people, but they are still open to bringing in people that have developed their own unique brands outside the system.
Mm-hmm.
That is always my preference, because like Danhausen comes in and it's a breath of fresh air, and oh my God, WWE knows how to use them. Joe Hendry's another situation where he brought his thing over. He's over, and they're doing that.
Yep.
I do think there's something to be said about, I wonder, this Shiloh Hill guy who is unique and interesting, but also a product of the system. I wonder what he would have been like doing some crazy, weird shit on the indies, making a name for himself, and then coming in.
Yeah.
Would he be even more interesting than had, what we're getting from him within the system, coming up just straight up. I hope, I guess my point is, I really hope that WWE is encouraging people to explore being weird, being unique, developing something different.
Yeah.
And giving that kind of leeway, because, Danhausen's been doing this for fucking a long time.
Yeah.
And only now, he's gotten to where he's gotten based off of his unique creativity.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said about being out there on the grind.
Yeah.
As opposed to being
establishing your own
system.
brand outside of kind of the maybe protective elements that you're going to have at the Performance Center.
Yeah.
You know, if you're out there on the independents, building your brand, trying different things, there's no safety net for you. If it fails, it fails. Whereas if you're at the PC, try something out, it doesn't work. All right, we'll go back to the drawing board. We'll figure out something else for you. You know,
it relies on. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And there's a lot to be said for wrestlers going out on the independents, doing the grind, building their brand, building the confidence, building the fan base, establishing their character, how they wrestle, how their character informs their wrestling out on the independents, and then going from there, whether it's WWE, AEW. And it's not to say that there haven't been wildly successful stories coming out of the Performance Center in that regard, because there have.
Sure.
You know, like when Bray Wyatt first showed up, we were like, holy shit, what is this? This is so unique and so different. So there's instances where performers have done that. But I don't know, there's something to be said for going out and really doing the work yourself and establishing yourself and coming up with something unique that might not get a chance in WWE system.
I think the biggest argument for this is when you're on the indies, when you're developing your shit on the indies, who determines your success? The crowd.
Mm-hmm.
It's the audience.
Yeah.
That is the ultimate test. That is the ultimate sort of gatekeeper.
Mm-hmm.
Is you go out there, you have a vision, you know this thing. The only people who really matter then is the crowd, because if any promoter gives you an opportunity and it's over with the crowd, that promoter is going to bring you back. You're going to develop that reputation. In NXT, I don't know exactly who it is, but Shawn Michaels is at the top. You got the other people there as well, probably Regal, Finlay, et cetera, right?
Bloom, yeah.
Bloom, yeah. So if those people don't like it, they're the gatekeepers now. You know, they might give you a chance and evolve in front of those 25 sane people. Mm-hmm. That ain't the same as going out there with creative control of your shit, you know, as long as the promoters are cool with it. But I'm assuming most indie promoters are probably like, hey, you got something set? All right, cool.
We're bringing you in to do your thing. Yeah.
Right. And if you want to try something new, okay, as long as it fits into what we're trying to do here, cool, go ahead and do it, because that's less work for me to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in NXT, you've got the same 4 or 5 guys, minds, who know what they like, who think they know what works, and they're the ones who would be like, oh, what you're doing, I don't think that's going to work.
Yeah.
So let's retool it. Let's change it.
Yeah.
As opposed to, you go out there on your own, you make the name, then you're really finding out if it'll work, because it's you and the crowd.
Yep.
Well, there you go.
It's in a lot of ways a more intensive and arguably better workshop to develop a character and approach to pro wrestling, as opposed to
it's a more honest workshop.
It really is. Next hot take here from Kamo Mustafa here says, the Vision should win the tag titles. It would certainly do some good for Austin, who is currently heatless. I don't think putting a tag title around Austin Theory's waist is going to give him a whole lot of heat.
You gotta, I've always been in the opinion, you gotta make the dude before you put the title on him.
Mm-hmm.
You can't put the title on a guy to make the dude.
Mm-mm.
You gotta make him first, and then you put the title on him.
Yeah. Kenny Johnson here says the 2011 Summer of Punk isn't as memorable as you think. Yes, the pipe bomb and Money in the Bank match against Cena were iconic, but those were 2 events over the span of 3 weeks. Otherwise, what else happened? Punk was only gone for a week. The cash-in mess at SummerSlam and Kevin Nash of all people, and so on. Here's the thing about Summer of Punk. Yes, creatively post Money in the Bank, it was handled horribly.
Yeah.
There was a level of excitement about the pro wrestling business that hadn't been around in a very long time, based on the pipe bomb and the Money in the Bank match. And when Punk put forth the idea, I'm out of here with this title, I'm going to defend it all over the place. That seemed like such a unique idea and a promising idea. For me, that was one of the things that got me back into wrestling after not watching in forever. So you could say, yeah, the Summer of Punk wasn't memorable if you look at the list of events on paper. the magnitude of the pipe bomb in that Money in the Bank match, you can't really quantify in ways like that. You have to just look at it from a historical context and say, all right, this was a pivotal moment here. Did WWE follow up with the momentum of that moment? No. Is that Punk's fault? Absolutely not. You know, I'm sure he didn't want to have a match against Kevin Nash or Triple H, much less lose to Triple H.
Mm-hmm.
You know? So, yeah, I is the Summer of Punk as a whole memorable? I don't know, but those two moments were, and they were seismic when they happened.
Seismic is the word. They were
highly
influential.
How many people got back into wrestling based on that?
Yeah, it made Punk. It made a new superstar. It made a guy. Like, he was already a deal, but this put him up there.
Yeah.
And then he comes out to Cult of Personality, and it's like, oh my God. You know, yeah, I agree with the minutia here, the details. And yes, it was disappointing when he was gone for a week. He didn't show up anywhere else. You know, whatever. But yeah, the magnitude of those moments, that moment and that match were huge. I know there was probably the contract signing was good too, you know, with all that. It's similar to his 434-day title run. If you actually look at the run itself and his opponents, they threw him some stinkers.
Yeah.
But, you know, you can say, oh, man, he was champion for 434 days. It was a pretty big deal.
Yeah. Yep.
And you can't take that away from him. So, yeah, I think what you're saying here, the influence of those, of the inciting incidents here, those were incredibly memorable, and it speaks to just how huge they were that, yeah, the follow-through wasn't great, but boy, oh boy.
People still remember it.
They really do.
They really do. Next here, Jackson Schoening here says, with all these mergers and deals, Total Divas being lost media is a travesty. Remember the dawn of streaming where like, oh, you have anything and everything at your fingertips at all times.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, you have a little box next to your TV, and if you want to watch anything, you just pull it up, bang, it's there. That was kind of like the initial promise, seemingly, of streaming in its early days. And now, you know, if a streamer doesn't want to pay royalties to somebody for the content, they just take it off.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's a variety of reasons where stuff disappears off streaming.
Yeah.
And maybe there's a day where you had all this stuff on DVD. It's like, oh, this could be on streaming. I don't need this anymore. Get rid of all your DVDs or Blu-rays, and now you can't find these things that you love.
Yeah.
It stinks.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really like lost media if you can still see it somewhere on the internet.
Yeah.
I mean, the term lost media is not, I mean, that's not really appropriately being used here, because that's like shit that, you know, it's like, fuck, I don't know. Shit that literally you cannot find anywhere.
Yeah.
But the larger point of, you know, most episodes of Nitro you can't get at your finger. You know, you can't see anymore, or Thunder or whatever. So yeah, I mean it sucks, you know. But this is how it was 30 years ago when they haven't released this on VHS. I got to sit around and wait for a rerun or something.
Yeah, or Disney used to put movies in the vault after having them on tape for a while.
Yeah, but no, I agree. You know, whether it's Total Divas or any of the wrestling programs that got dropped off of Peacock when that deal expired. You know, ECW. I can't watch ECW the way I want to watch my ECW. I have to go online and find some weird fucking link somewhere, and that blows.
Yeah.
But you know, who knows? Hopefully there will be, because I don't know if they ever put that on like DVD. Total Divas. Let me get on eBay. I got
or
on
go
Amazon.
to, you know, if they still exist, like a used video store.
Total Divas. Let me see. WWE. WWE. Did they ever release this on DVD? Why? Viva Las Divas. This is not right. This is Stacy Keibler in a bikini. Yeah, maybe they didn't put this on DVD. That's a book. Yeah, kind of interesting. They never did that. Anyways, yeah, it's a bummer. I mean, that's just, you know, streaming giveth and taketh away.
Yeah, yeah. Next here from Bungee Man says WWE's version of ECW has some of my favorite presentation of any wrestling show. Say what you will about the product itself, but you can't deny the branding looked great.
I'm watching. Speaking of lost media, some of this stuff is still on. I've got the debut of Kevin Thorne here up, July 25th, 2006. Back when it was on Sci-Fi and they were doing like vampires and zombies and shit like that.
Yeah.
I am a fan of. I do appreciate the logo for ECW. How they had the razor blade behind the red ECW logo. I thought that was cool. You know, they when they ended up filming this shit, like, you know, after crowds have already been sitting there for,
Yeah.
you know, a couple hours. Yeah, but I think they did what they could to sort of make this look like arena ECW. They had the chain link fence entrance stuff going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a cool little wrestling program in terms of presentation. You know, was it ECW? No. But it was cool. I appreciate it. I'll put it this way. They did a better job with WWE ECW than they did when they brought over WCW and they used that god awful logo.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, they did a much better job with ECW than they did that.
Yeah. I never really watched WWE ECW, so I don't have much to add here. Drew Lytle here says one of the greatest ideas of all time was bottomless chips at a Mexican restaurant. They're a great way to focus on needed work by just ordering something to drink and focusing on said work for an hour while munching on chips before finally ordering lunch or dinner.
So Drew here gets his laptop. He goes down to his local Mexican restaurant. Give me some bottomless chips and a cerveza, por favor. Yeah. You know, I'm going to get some spreadsheets done.
Mm-hmm.
You know, hopefully maybe ChatGPT is helping him out, be a bit more efficient, opening up his YouTube here and there, perhaps. And then like an hour goes by and they're like, damn, is this guy going to order some fucking food or what? Want some enchiladas, please, but I'm already stuffed. So I only eat one of them. The other one's going to go for dinner later.
Yeah.
What do you prefer? Bottomless bread at an Italian restaurant or bottomless chips at a Mexican restaurant?
Here's the thing. If I have too much bread, I for sure am not eating my entree.
That shit fills you up so quick.
It just swells up in your gut, especially if you're drinking anything with it.
Yeah.
Bread and water is going to blow up in your gut. You're going to be full.
Yeah, you're full.
So that brick of lasagna ordered, guess what? That's going right home after a bite or two.
Yep.
Whereas with the chips, I could pace myself, not as heavy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I can eat a good amount of chips and still put good dent in whatever I ordered for my entree. So give me the chips.
Yeah. Depending on the restaurant, but sometimes that bread is so good.
If they give you some of that focaccia bread with the herbs in it.
Yeah, dude.
It's good stuff.
It's good stuff. Yeah, it's really
If it's a normal old loaf of like French bread or something, whatever. I can go to the store and get that. I don't really eat that kind of bread anyways. But give me some bread with some flavor in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, then that's maybe a tougher competition.
It is, dude. Yeah, some of that bread is so good. And like chips are chips, you know. You get some good salsa with it, you get some good guacamole with it. Okay, now we're talking, but chips are kind of chips.
You know what? You don't see these very often, but as a kid, there used to be a Mexican restaurant we went to all the time that would give you the corn tortilla chips. The flour tortilla chips is where it's at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Those are so good.
Yeah.
And you don't see them anymore, really. At least I don't to the places I frequent.
Yeah.
I miss those. Those are hecka good.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. Got to bring that back.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's going to do it for this edition of Hot Takes. Thanks everybody for submitting yours. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and the notify bell so that you know when we put up our Hot Takes threads. Till next time, we'll see you guys around.
Goodbye.